that I wanted to head over to Davos. Davos, the story is now a couple weeks old, but what a story it was at that time. Davos is the economic conference that's held every year in Switzerland. And Michelle Bachmann, it is a paradise for globalists. And again, Donald Trump was the troublemaker. He informed everybody there that America is open for business. He let it be known that he, Donald Trump, is not a part of the globalist gang. He is a part of the America First. Well, he's the leader of it anyway. And I'm sure you were watching that story as it was happening not too long ago.
Well, it's marvelous to see that because, as we know with the example of the European Union, there was an effort to pull together all of the European countries in a one economic system. Once you have a one economic system, then you have to have a one political system to govern that economic system. That's what all Davos is. It's an effort to have a one world economic system. And once that happens, then by virtue of the fact of chaos, you have to bring order to chaos. You have to have a one world political system. So we're all being conditioned and manipulated to accept a one world economic system. Donald Trump went over there as president of the United States and said, America's open for business. We've lowered our taxes. We've lowered our regulatory burden, and everybody come and invest in us. We're interested in America. You can play all your games here with one world economy that you want to, but we're going to move forward with a capitalist free market system, and we're going to roar. It was just great. He came in as the ultimate disruptor to this one world economic system, and he gave exactly the right message.
And Franklin Graham opened up this entire program with an appeal to pray for President Trump and Vice President Pence, too. When you start messing around with the globalists, as Donald Trump has done, I fear for his life. I really do.
Well, that's why we have to remember to continually pray for our president, because there are people who are so unhinged and irrational. They'll do anything to remove Donald Trump from office. Why? Because he is not going down the globalist one world government system, the system that is communist and socialist and abiding by those principles. He's very different. He believes in the traditional system of the American constitutional republic, which is refreshing. Thank God that he does. You had two clips here that you played so far today. One from Franklin Graham, one from radio host Mark Levin. Both of them talked about this issue of a coup or a soft coup.
Right.
I think it's important that your listeners know what that means. That's a political term, and a coup means someone illegally removes the current government from office outside of the electoral process. That's what we're talking about. By lies in the media. You and I talked about this, Jan. The fact that your listeners are being played right now. The American people are being played. By that, I mean we're being manipulated by the non-stop dinge of the lies in the media about Donald Trump, what he did or didn't do during the campaign, what's happening in government right now. They're absolutely unhinged. And after a while, people just want to live in peace.
Right.
They tune it out. They can't take all of this nonstop hatred. They don't know what to think. But what we need to realize is that, as I had said before, about 95% of what you hear in the media is negative about Trump. And yet, if you look at the statistics, as you also referenced from the Heritage Foundation, his report card rating after 1 year in office is out of control with how the economy is improving. Growth like we haven't seen in over 8 years, 45% increase in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. People's wages, 90% of wages are going up. Donald Trump has done more to advance the pro-life cause than any other president ever. He has done more to advance religious liberty for all Americans than any president ever. He has designated Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. That's extremely important. He's the first leader in the world to do that, and he was followed by President Morales of Guatemala, the only two countries in the world to do that. Why is that significant for believers? Because Donald Trump has put our country, the United States of America, in a position of blessing according to Genesis 12:3. We will be blessed. That is a promise of God Almighty. And for all of these globalists who wanted to bring America down because they want America to come down so we'll be like all the other countries of the world so they can advance one world economies and one world government, that can't happen when you have a strong, free America. And Donald Trump is taking us in the direction of a strong, free, secure America.
Well, something that isn't pleasing his base a whole lot, and I'm not sure we know exactly how it's going to play out, and that would be the situation as it concerns DACA, that stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Let me just read a couple of lines. Gary Bauer wrote recently about the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA. The White House put an immigration reform deal on the table. At first glance, it includes many ideas that polled well in recent Harvard survey, help for DACA recipients, and the diversity visa lottery, as well as a $25 billion scheduled for serious border security measures. Moreover, the White House describes as an extraordinarily generous concession. The plan goes well beyond the DACA recipients, which presents many additional concerns. The left is outraged because it does not want to limit immigration in any way. It does not want to end chain migration. It does not want to secure our borders. The left wants open borders. It wants millions of future progressive voters to pour into the country legally or otherwise. And then Bauer concludes, progressives see illegal immigrants as dreamers while they castigate American citizens as deplorables. Now, when Donald Trump ran for office all of 2016, one of his big promises, of course, was a wall, etc. Immigration was huge and all the things he promised, and yet apparently he's going to cave when it comes to the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, otherwise known as DACA. We've got Breitbart, Ann Coulter, and others saying we're being betrayed. Your take on this, please.
Well, I don't like what I'm reading either because it looks like Donald Trump is going 180 degrees opposite of what he said during the course of the campaign. But one thing we have seen with Donald Trump is he will say one thing, then he'll say something about the opposite, then he'll whip us back to what he said originally. And this is just, for the last year, this is what we've seen. He's contributed in part to this instability, but it may be all a part of his negotiation style. I don't know. But I do know it's weird because the number one thing that people cared about when he ran for office,
that's right.
As a matter of fact, it was his opening speech when he ran. He talked about the problems of illegal immigration, and they are real. Illegal immigrants are extraordinarily expensive to the taxpayers of the United States. They cost us a lot of money because they require a lot of government services, far more than what they pay in taxes. And a lot of crime has also come along with illegals. Not all, but a lot of crime has. That's a whole new box of issues to have to deal with. But where does Donald Trump land on this? Nobody really knows. I think what we have seen with Donald Trump, what he originally says, he ultimately delivers. And so I'm going to do a 1 Corinthians 13 and ultimately believe the best here that that's where the direction that he is going to go. Because the biggest problem that the American people have is they're concerned about our border, the fact that illegals continue to pour in. We've had more amnesties in our past. Every time we have an amnesty, more illegals pour across the borders and we have more problems. So this doesn't solve anything to have an amnesty. So I'm not sure where it's going to end up. I do know people are really mad.